Good evening, everybody, and welcome inside the athletic fields here at Milford High School, as Milford TV is happy to bring you coverage of Scarlet Hawks athletics. Welcome in, everyone, to the start of the 2023-2024 school year, and we officially begin our fall sports coverage for this academic year with some coverage of the Milford High School varsity boys soccer team in an evening matchup against a rival from the Davenport division and the Foxborough Warriors. This game had a very evolving start time as the last 24 hours or so have gone on. This was originally slated to be a 3:45 start time this afternoon, but with the excessive heat across the region for these last several days, it was decided really league-wide to push start times back towards the evening to try to move away from some of the most intense heat from the day. And so at that point, the game was scheduled for a 6:30 start, but eventually sometime between early this afternoon and game time, it was pushed back another 30 minutes to eventually settle on a start time of 7 p.m. So that is why we are just getting underway now, here just after 7 p.m. So we welcome everyone in who is tuned into our live streaming coverage of the Scarlet Hawks athletics for this evening. I am Milford TV Executive Director Tim Coat. We've had quite a week at Milford TV. We'll start to get into some of our technical details with you as this broadcast has gone on. But in the meantime, let's put our early focus here on the Scarlet Hawks boys soccer team. They enter into action tonight with a record of 0-1 on the season. They lost their season debut in a tough matchup against a very good St. John's Prep team. That was a 3-0 final score earlier this week. So the Hawks are looking to hit the reset button here in just game number 2 of the season. Foxborough, meanwhile, playing their season debut game here tonight, so they come in without a record. And Milford with an early opportunity here, streaking in on the far side. Foxborough closing in defensively, and that ball is going to go out of play. A lot of new faces on this Scarlet Hawks varsity roster that we'll be learning along with you on the broadcast this evening. So, as always, I ask for your indulgence on name pronunciations in the early days of the season. We will make every effort to start to hone those in as the season goes on. But meanwhile, an early corner kick opportunity here for the Hawks. It comes in from the far side. A heavy air mass overhead here at the soccer field. Not much wind, but heavy humidity in the air. That ball came out a little ways in front of the net, but Milford could not handle it, and now they will play this ball all the way back to the keeper. It is the freshman Robbie Capelli in net for the Scarlet Hawks here this evening. A tandem of goalkeepers that will fight it out for playing time in this regular season. Capelli, the freshman, Jackson Pfeiffer, the senior. And that's just one of the changes for the Scarlet Hawks team for this new season. A brief stoppage of play here, just about 4 minutes in, as we have an injured Foxborough player making his way to the sideline. That's one of the captains on this Warriors squad, Fredu Gubala. He, along with the keeper Ryan Cotter, are the all now headed the other way down the near sideline and now out of play. Scarlet Hawks once again are under the direction of head coach Antonio Pinto. Varsity assistant coach Mike DeSilva not here tonight, nor is sophomore Danny DeSilva, and we just want to quickly offer our heartfelt condolences to the DeSilva family dealing with a tragedy within their family. So our thoughts are certainly with the DeSilva family this evening, as I know the same can be said for all of the players and coaches and fans in attendance here. Corner kick now comes in from Foxborough on the near side. This ball popped high up in the air and now cleared out by the Hawks, at least out of immediate danger, but kept alive on the Foxborough side by Timmy Kersner Greenwell. and now headed off towards the far sideline. Of course, a lot of changes on this roster for Milford, losing about 25 goals worth of their offensive output from last season. Losing the likes of Eduardo Castro, Arthur Tome. A lot of senior leadership. Nick Ribeiro, of course, a key cog in the wheel of this varsity boys soccer team throughout his varsity career. A lot of names that we could go through, seniors that graduated from last year. .33 minutes and 35 seconds on the clock, getting a little bit of a flicker on our main game camera, so we'll get that diagnosed for you in short order. Again, the Gremlin, so we certainly make every effort to get that straightened out. We'll get into some of the other issues that we have been navigating as the broadcast goes along, but still plenty of time left in this one. A scoreless game between two Hockomock League opponents. This ball in a juicy spot on the field for the Scarlet Hawks, and there is the first goal of this new season, and a little bit of acrobatics for some additional flair. That is Rodrigo Lorenzo, the junior. He gets the first strike of the season, and will get one more flip for good measure with an assist from Andre Mora Pereira. The Scarlet Hawks will take a 1-0 lead. I'm not sure if you get any cards issued for excessive celebration like you perhaps can on the football field, but that celebration certainly had a flair to it from Lorenzo with support of his teammates, but perhaps a little bit of a early sigh of relief on the season as Lorenzo got a little chip there from Foxborough's Ethan McHugo as that ball went out of play. And I would imagine that a celebration like that does not sit particularly well with the opposition. These Scarlet Hawks fans certainly loving the theatrics here in the early stages of this game as Milford is able to take their first lead with their first goal scored of this season. And with so many players new to this varsity roster gaining some fresh experience, you have to imagine that this is one of those situations where this team might look a whole lot different towards the middle and later stages of the season than they might in these early games out of the stretch, as they settle in and get new personnel suited to new roles. But meanwhile, showing some good strength on the offensive side here in the early part of this first half, once again bringing the ball in deep. Controlled out of the corner, and now dumped in by Ignacio Alcaraz Martinez, a sophomore. And the quick toss back in, and of course, one of the other new features on full display in this game tonight as we get a player shaken up, and right now, play continues as Milford has a player sprawled out over on the far side of the field. Lorenzo's going to put this one in. Milford looking for the header on the redirect, and this ball is eventually picked up by the senior keeper Ryan Cotter for Foxborough, and now all personnel on the Milford side appear to be back on their feet and back into the play. as we're just about 10 minutes into this first half action. But just to quickly finish off the point, one of the new features here at the Milford High School Athletic Complex is the new and improved field turf here at this main athletic field. Milford with a great ball and now a trip. And no whistle, as Nate Dennis, the senior, was in good position and ruled by the officials that he lost his footing of his own volition. Milford able to win this ball back, playing aggressively here and almost freeing Mora Pereira there for an opportunity. Mora Pereira back into the action, pushes back to Lorenzo. Lorenzo active feet into the box, running out of real estate as he keeps that ball just inside the goal line now, freeing up a shot for Dennis. Couldn't get quite as much on it as he would have liked, and the save is made by Cotter. But this Milford High School turf was a big project over the course of the summer. It made its debut late in the summer. We had a chance to first get eyes on it when we came down to the high school for our high school football preview, which aired on our most recent edition of the Milford Informer. But as you can see, just a sensational new look here to the turf field. Bright colors, brand new state-of-the-art surface for these players to enjoy, and no doubt the footing issues that had really plagued the athletes on all teams playing on this surface last year will be a thing of the past. Here's Dennis again, working hard opposite his fellow number 5, Nate Coate. This ball squirts to the far side, still controlled by Milford. Milford has really dictated the pace of these first 12 minutes of this half. Trying to drive this ball in deep. This time Foxborough able to get a clear. Foxborough, a team in a bit of transition themselves. This ball comes in for another look on Cotter, but he is able to make the stop. Milford was a playoff team again last year, though they did see their run of division crowns come to an end last year. They had been 4 consecutive years as division winners. That came to an end last year, although just barely. They were 3 points shy. They came roaring back in the late days of the regular season, made a run, but just ran out of games to try to catch the ultimate Kelly Rex division winner, Franklin. Missed it by 3 points. Foxborough, meanwhile, a tough year last year. They finished in last place in the Davenport, won just 2 games overall on the season, and have undergone a coaching change in the offseason. They actually have a pair of head coaches leading the team this season. We'll get more on that. Here is Dennis all alone, and he overshoots, sends that one over the crossbar, but Dennis has been very active. You can see wearing that captain's patch on the left arm. By our roster, he is the lone captain officially on this team, and he has been leading by example through this first half. A couple of good chances. Dennis is a player that has literally played all over this field over his varsity career. We've seen him as a stalwart defensive player. We've seen him at times in the midfield. We have seen him even at times fill in net. He's served in more than a handful of games last season as the team's keeper when they were plagued by injuries at that position. So he has just been so versatile and showing his skills on the offensive side of the ball through the early part of this first half. We're in a timeout on the field right now. The clock paused at 26:53. Milford with a 1-0 lead on the back of a goal by Rodrigo Lorenzo at the 33:03 mark. And so while we have a quick stop in the action, for anyone tuned into our live streaming coverage tonight, we want to just extend a sincere thank you to everyone in the Milford community for their patience in these last several days as we have undergone some serious technical issues at our studio. We had a critical malfunction take place with our main programming server, which forced our Milford TV channels to go dark starting last weekend and straight through up until just earlier this afternoon. We have had IT professionals guiding us every step of the way. We have been working almost around the clock for these last several days to try to diagnose the issues that we have been facing, and we're so happy to say that our channels are now back on the air. We're still working out a few of the kinks. Unfortunately, we are unable to be live officially on our channels for this game tonight, as we got just a little bit too close to game time to be able to officially get live programming back up and running. But all of our existing program schedule is up and running, and all of our channels are live once again. We also have school committee currently recording up at the TRC as we do this game tonight, so we'll have this game, we'll have school committee turned over and on the air and streaming for you as of tomorrow. And we hope to have these technical issues as a thing of the past here now moving forward. But again, it's been a very difficult series of days here as we've tried to get our channels back on the air and get our content back onto all of your screens. So we appreciate the patience as you've hung with us through this difficult time. And so again, it looks to be that we have turned a corner and we're getting things back up and running, and so we should be good to go from here on. We're happy to be streaming this coverage on our YouTube live stream here tonight for everyone who is tuned into the coverage. We're so happy to have you all with us. And of course, we understand we have not only Milford fans in our viewing audience on YouTube this evening, but Foxborough fans as well. And so regardless of who you might be cheering for, we're happy to have you joining our coverage. Two good teams in action here this evening. Milford with the current 1-0 lead, 26-22 remains in the first half. Again, I am Milford TV Executive Director Tim Coette on the call with you tonight in our debut of our fall sports coverage. Milford taking a chance from long range, and that ball well up and over the net. At our next pause in the action, we'll start to delve a little bit deeper into the schedule that you can expect in terms of our sports coverage for the month of September, as we will have a lot to bring you in the days and weeks ahead, just scratching the surface of fall sports coverage. Of course, we'll not only have boys soccer for you throughout this fall, but girls soccer as well, girls volleyball, and the football team. Home team's hard to come by for the football team this season, but we'll have them for you. And if possible, some road coverage as well, as Milford had a long pass come in at the doorstep for John Tesuri Castro. And that ball, that shot ultimately off target, but another nice feed as Milford has been very creative, presenting some intriguing opportunities throughout this first half. Just over 25 minutes remain, and Milford continues to apply pressure. Foxborough now trying to make a little bit of a run here up the gut. Milford clogging up the works. Lorenzo again in the middle of the action. This ball is going to pop over towards the far side. The Warriors looking to save it. They're able to push it further up the far sideline, but ultimately that ball goes out of play. Milford will cycle in some new personnel here. Brian Ribeiro, Mike Morocco both enter the game. John Castro and also Mateus dos Santos, who looks to be a little bit ginger, maybe favoring the right hamstring area as he comes to the sideline. So he'll try to stretch that out as he gets a breather. For training staff in hot pursuit to check on the situation with dos Santos. Ball back out of play, and Foxborough will toss it back in over on the far side. The lights on here at the Milford turf as this ball goes wide to the far side of the Milford net. Not a lot of traffic so far in front of the freshman Robbie Capelli, but we will see a corner kick here. It's the second corner kick of the half for Foxborough. Little bit of an on and off breeze blowing from right to left across the playing surface, so we'll see if that helps Foxborough at all here. And this ball ends up right in the grasp of Capelli. Nicely played. And Milford sprung loose quickly. Foxborough able to close in defensively as this ball will drift back outside of the box. And a line drive shot, a one-handed save for Cotter. As Milford turns a Foxborough corner kick in a matter of seconds into a chance on their offensive end. And now a corner kick for the Scarlet Hawks will come on the near side, and wandering over once again is the junior Rodrigo Lorenzo, who has been front and center in the action in this first half. 22:35 on the clock. To the middle of the box, hard header. I think that was Dennis through traffic that gave it a shot, and that ball off target. But again, a good feed in by Lorenzo. Goal kick here for Ryan Cotter. So we mentioned a pair of head coaches for this Foxborough team. George Argyru and Colin Mieselman serving as co-head coaches for this Foxborough program, new to the team for this season. As meanwhile, Milford is going to set up for yet another corner kick chance. Coming from the far side this time. Low line drive kick right to the post, and Cotter is able to step in to handle that one with ease. He'll pop this goal kick just past midfield. Milford is the first to it. Putting it back towards the circle. Now Foxborough trying to center, but Milford stays aggressive. Getting to that one, Phil Caetano. And now Lorenzo from directly in the middle of the field pushes to the near side, and the Scarlet Hawks with a nice idea there, trying to spring the freshman Brian Ribeiro. And still Milford ball, and the corner kicks coming fast and furious for the Scarlet Hawks now. This is their third in about the last minute and a half. Kick taken by Ignacio Alcaraz Martinez. And nearly bending that one into the back of the net, but Cotter steps in to make the stop. This ball glances off the back of a Foxborough player. Milford can't get the clear, and now will we see something here out of the Foxborough attack? It has been without much bite here through this first half. The play has been dominated on the Milford attacking side throughout the first 20 minutes. Martinez getting urged by the official to adjust some of his equipment before sending that ball back into play. Goes right back out, and now Foxborough can toss in. It was a 12-6-2 finish to the season last year for Milford. Another playoff berth, and I'm sure the team would say themselves they were hoping to make it further. Ended up not having an opportunity to cover any playoff action for the boys soccer team last season. So it was a relatively short run through the MIAA tournament as this ball comes in deep, and there is Capelli to make a sure-handed play. Went down to the turf to make sure he kept that ball in his possession. And now sends a hard kick right to Dennis. A good deflection that's going to allow Milford to move ahead in stride, but a nice sliding play by the Foxborough defense to prevent that ball from getting into a real dangerous area. And again, we see a Milford player continue to stay down on the turf as the officials allow play to continue. And now we'll get a whistle and a stoppage of the clock at 18:13 as the captain, Nate Dennis, comes over to try to stretch out the right leg of the injured player. Athletic training staff also coming out to investigate the situation. So again, another pause in the action, and this will give us a chance now to bring up our broadcast schedule here coming up for the month of September. So getting things started with boys soccer action, here tonight against Foxborough, and we will have back-to-back girls soccer games coming up in our coverage next week, bookending the week. We will be live here at the Turf in the evening on Monday, September 11th, for girls soccer action in a non-conference matchup against Hopedale. That game is scheduled for a 6 p.m. start. That is weather permitting. We're seeing some unsettled weather in the forecast next week, but we hope to be able to get that girls soccer action against Hopedale for you, as well as the girls soccer team in action against Sharon on Friday, September 15th next week. And then the following week will bring us our first looks at both the girls volleyball team and the football team, as girls volleyball will be in action on Monday, September 18th against North Attleboro, and then the football team will have their much-anticipated first home game of the season in a fantastic matchup against the Natick Redhawks. That is Friday, September 22nd. We'll have more girls soccer later in the month, and also we're hoping to sneak in some football road coverage. We have some preliminary plans in place right now, pending some final approval on the Attleboro side, to try to head down to Attleboro High School to bring you road coverage of the football team later on in the month as well. So plenty coming up on the radar for Scarlet Hawks Athletics here on Milford TV. All games will be streaming live here on our YouTube page, and we'll also hope to get that action up on our local channels as well. 17:32 remaining in this first half. Last bits of daylight fading off in the distance. As Milford picks this ball off, and now Lorenzo using speed coming towards the near sideline. Plays this ball up ahead for Ribeiro. And Ribeiro now on to the captain, Nate Dennis. Back up for grabs. Milford regroups around the center circle. And now back to the D-line. Dennis now pushing this ball into the corner. Both teams giving chase, and that ball knocked out of play by the Warriors, just out of the reach of Brian Ribeiro. He'll get it right back from Dennis, who now takes it through a couple of defenders, and now dropped inside the box in front of the net, where it is plucked out of the air by Ryan Cotter. This will take us down towards 16 minutes to play in the half. Milford continuing to hold on to a 1-0 lead. They scored about 7 minutes into this first half, courtesy of Rodrigo Lorenzo. This Foxborough team had an opportunity to really gel as a unit during the offseason. Played in the forward-thinking summer league out of Norton, along with some other Hockomock League squads. They ended up taking home the championship in that summer league. And so hoping for better days ahead for this Warriors program after just a 2-win season. They haven't been able to get much accomplished against Milford so far tonight, able to get this ball in deep, but eventually broken up by the defense, and you can see there's some frustration out of the Foxborough senior Jack Sullivan, who felt like he could have made a better play there as he brought that ball inside the box. More hard contact, and another Milford player hits the deck at the edge of the field of play. Again, slowing up the pace of this match, and you would have to think that in conditions like this, it really pushes these players. You certainly expect to play in some warmer conditions in these early days of the fall sports season when you're still really experiencing the final days of summer. But I don't think that we tend to expect to have mid-90s with extreme humidity, which is what we've been locked into in the last several days. This was the hottest day of them all. Temperatures around 95 degrees, I do believe, in the Milford area earlier today. Cooling off a little bit, as now we no longer have the sun to contend with, but it's the heat and it's also the humidity that has really given a hot and sticky feel throughout the last several days. Still clocking in at 83 degrees. So conditioning certainly will be a factor as this game goes along. Down to 14:36 in this first half. Scoreboard unchanged, 1-0 in favor of the Scarlet Hawks. This ball ends up deep, but secured confidently by Robbie Capelli. He has looked good when called upon through this first half so far, but admittedly has not had a ton of activity come his way. This pass off target. Caetano has to chase it down, pushes it up to Dennis, and then out of play. Proper hydration certainly key in game conditions like this, and we've already seen a couple of Milford players looking like they're dealing with some cramping. In particular right now, Andre Mora Pereira on the sidelines trying to get stretched out. Looks like also Brian Ribeiro trying to stretch it out and get some water on the sidelines as well. Milford just keeps that ball from going out of play, keeps it low as they send that in towards the far post, and a sprawling save is made by Cotter. I've seen Milford save some balls that looked for sure like they were going out of play. Very impressive footwork. Hard header back onto the attacking side for Milford, but Foxborough there to pick it up. Now pushed down the near sideline, but out of play. As that ball was played ahead by Foxborough's number 19, Ian Foley. Milford on the move once again, crossing back towards the middle of the field. Carried ahead by Mateus Sequeira. And lobbed in. Dennis there for the header, but again, sends that over the crossbar. But the fans encouraged by the offensive chances Milford continues to generate for themselves. The Scarlet Hawks played Foxborough in Foxborough in their second game of the season last year. And they won going away, a 4-0 final score. As Milford really opened last season with a bang. They scored 10 unanswered goals in their first 2 matches of the year, blanking Hopedale 6-0 and then doing the same to Foxborough by a 4-0 final score. This game feels a little more comfortable than the score actually is, as Milford has dominated play, but they lead only by a slim 1-0 margin as we come down towards the final 10 minutes of this first half. Looks like Milford was trying to move that ball up ahead to Bruno Esteves, but did not quite get there as Foxborough was able to intercept. overshot and goes out of play. Hard block by Mateus dos Santos, jumping back into the action. So he had come off the field looking a bit hobbled earlier in the half, but back out there and getting fully involved in the action. Another good stop by Capelli. Foxborough now controls over the middle, pushes up the near sideline. Able to momentarily catch Jack Sullivan in stride. A few times Foxborough's tried to get Sullivan activated. Capelli again, this time takes a beat, delivers this ball back across the midfield line with just over 8 minutes remaining in the half. Milford leading the Foxborough Warriors by a score of 1-0. This ball gets deflected over towards the near sideline. Milford is there and shanked off the foot of Caetano. Sails well wide of the Foxborough net and out of play, and Caetano frustrated with himself that he couldn't get that ball on target. Seven and a half minutes until we reach the intermission. This ball played back. Out of the crease is Capelli. Took charge of that play, now slinks back into the box as Milford plays this D to D to the near sideline. And then up ahead, a good ball finds Lorenzo. Played back to the junior, loses his feet, gets right back into the play. More good footwork for Lorenzo, who tries to send this the width of the field. Milford able to regroup. This ball bouncing across the goal mouth, but Cotter making sure that that ball went wide, which it did indeed. Goal kick coming up here for the captain, Ryan Cotter. Flicked ahead, Sullivan is there. Milford with a couple of defenders close by as this pass is centered up in the general direction of, I believe, Harrison Lamson for Foxborough, but Milford was able to deflect away. And now Dos Santos, Milford trying to get the clear, but Foxborough regains control. Now Sullivan trying to turn around and get free for a shot. He has a step on the defense, now gets tripped up and slams the turf as he looked towards the official. I think he wanted a call there for a penalty shot, but it does not come. And now Foxborough will send one in from long range that goes wide of the net and out. And it looks like some additional conversation now between Sullivan and the official. So Milford perhaps fortunate there with the call. It was tough to see in real time if there was contact that forced Sullivan down. But right now Foxborough playing with a little bit better purpose than we've seen through much of the half. Streaking in deep here and sending a shot in towards the far post. That is handled by Capelli. I believe that shot was taken by John Hollis. Milford perhaps easing up on the throttle a bit in the late stages of this half. And that has not gone unnoticed by head coach Antonio Pinto, who has started to ratchet up the decibel level as he communicates with the team from the sidelines. And even 4 minutes remain on the game clock as Milford again sends this ball out of play. Push back deep as Foxborough will toss in. Little awkward header there for the Milford defense, but fortunate that it deflected right to another Hawks player. Milford now with good quickness, clearing this ball out, finding Dennis, but not out of harm's way as Foxborough sends it right back in deep. Series of quick passes, sends the ball in the direction of Jake Anello. And now flicked back in. Response from Milford's Gianelli Chassin. And now a bad pass here for Foxborough, and looks like they will get away with it. That almost allowed Milford a free trip upfield. Up the near sideline, Lorenzo quickly closes in. Incredible speed from Lorenzo. He can close in a hurry. More barking at the officials. Seems to once again be Foxborough wanting a call. Lorenzo certainly not the biggest target out there on the field in terms of stature, but he has really shown some blistering speed and terrific ball skills throughout this first half. As this ball comes in hard, and it is knocked down and ultimately saved by Cotter. Right into the teeth of the Milford defense here. Maura Pereira back out onto the field, gets bumped off the ball. Perhaps a chance to get back in the play. Instead, it's sent back to the D. Now here's Maura in the center circle and sends a pass to nowhere. Some communication issues on the team as Maura Pereira expected Ignacio Alcaraz Martinez to be in the neighborhood to receive that pass. And now a corner kick chance for Foxborough, and you've slowly started to feel the momentum shifting here in the late stages of this half. Just about a minute or so to go until we reach halftime, and Milford hoping to get there at this point with the lead intact. Foxborough threatening. Milford has had the better of the opportunities throughout this half, but have only been able to cash in with the one goal. And now John Hollis lines up for the corner kick on the near side. Milford able to redirect this ball outside of the box. Now Lorenzo clears as far as center. Foxborough now a couple of paces onto the Milford side. Will dump it back in. Ball goes off of Hollis, and he's a little slow to get to his feet, perhaps from frustration more than injury. And these fans wanting to see a little bit more purpose out of Milford here in this final stretch of the half. Dennis along the near sideline, curls back towards the middle, and then has the ball taken away. And now it is Foxborough looking for a move upfield. Milford able to slow up the pace just enough. A second player there in the neighborhood for Foxborough, but they could not cash in. The ball cleared up to midfield, and that will be the final sequence of this first half. So an interesting half. Milford controlled much of the action. Foxborough with a good close to the half, but when all is said and done, Milford with a 1-0 lead. Again, Rodrigo Lorenzo, the one goal scorer in this half so far. So we will head to intermission here now for the next 8 minutes. Again, with Milford on top of Foxborough 1-0. If you're with us on our live stream, hang tight for the next few minutes. We will resume coverage shortly here on Milford TV. Welcome back into the coverage as we begin second half action here in this boys varsity soccer matchup between your Milford Scarlet Hawks and the visiting Foxborough Warriors. If you're just joining us on the coverage, Milford enjoying a 1-0 lead. They scored 7 minutes into the first half. Junior Rodrigo Lorenzo getting the first Milford goal of the season after the Hawks were shut out in their season opener a couple of days ago against St. John's Prep. Milford now attacking from right to left across your screens and streaking in for an early opportunity. Still on the move here as this ball comes in low. A lot of traffic in front of the net, and that ball eventually deflects over towards the corner as the Foxborough keeper was almost shielded by one of his own defensemen. So quite an opening salvo here for the Scarlet Hawks. They had a little bit of a lapse perhaps in intensity in the closing moments of the first half, but coming out with an immediate scoring chance here as the second half begins. And now a corner kick is going to drift its way towards the far side of the field. Maura Pereira sends that one on a bounce towards the middle and then deflected out of play. Once again, I am Milford TV Executive Director Tim Coet, bringing you the play-by-play for tonight's game. Milford TV producer and social media and marketing coordinator Patrick Garapi up top manning the camera. Milford sends this ball back onto the attacking side. Our very first game action of this fall sports season. Happy to be streaming this coverage live on our YouTube page. If you happen to be watching us after the fact on our educational channel or our Verizon HD channel, you can catch all the games live streaming at youtube.com/mymilfordtv. We encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube page as we've been using it much, much more as a resource. We've been uploading all of our government meetings, our sports coverage, our editions of the Milford Informer. So if you have not yet subscribed, head over to youtube.com/mymilfordtv and subscribe. You can be alerted whenever we have new content, live streaming coverage. Let's have one other change to note in terms of our Milford TV channels. We'll get to it as the second half goes along. This ball making its way back out towards center, and now Milford back on the attack, sending this ball in from long range, wide of the net, but Cotter not taking any chances. Some good work in net by the senior Ryan Cotter for Foxborough so far tonight, helping to keep this just a one-goal deficit for his team. Big high bounce here, Milford the first to get to it. Shot quickly back up the middle, but Foxborough will play it from there. Decent-sized crowd here in the home bleachers taking in some early season action. Again, this is just the second game of the year for Milford. They did open up the season here at home 2 days ago in that matchup against St. John's Prep. 3 straight at home for Milford out of the gates. They'll also be home for their next match on September 12th against Attleboro. This is our only boys soccer coverage for the month of September, but a lot of home games in October for the boys, and so we will be making up for lost time a little bit later on in the season with plenty of coverage of this team once the calendar flips to October. This ball in for a quick centering attempt. Deflected away. A chance materialized quickly as Milford tried to feed John Castro on the doorstep. Here is Lorenzo, a little self pass. Had a defender blow by. Whistle coming against the Scarlet Hawks. Not a lot of whistles in this game. The officials have really let these teams sort it out themselves. Here's a quick centering attempt. The ball comes in playable for Capelli, and he is able to make the save. Not a lot on that shot for Foxborough. And a clean save for the freshman Robbie Capelli, who continues to look solid. Or Pereira passing behind him in the direction of Castro. Broken up by the Warriors, and a quick toss in here for Lorenzo will keep us moving forward with just a shade under 34 minutes remaining in the second half. Taking their time, then sending that ball inside the box, but nobody home except the Warriors defense. Now it's Kevin Barboza on the move. Pushes it towards the near sideline now. Trying to feed towards Phil Caetano, that's broken up. Foxborough now takes it inside the center circle. Caetano there, this ball slowly rolling out of play. Warriors with a long toss up ahead. Very nicely knocked down and controlled by Gianelli Chassin. Very little airflow to speak of here at the turf field, so it continues to be extreme muggy, humid conditions. You can even see a bit of a haze hovering in the air with the lights on. And so a little dump in the direction of Caetano. Foxborough briefly gains control, now bumps Milford off the ball yet again and feeds ahead, but Chassin there to break up the action yet again. Meanwhile, Milford with Nate Dennis and Mateus Dos Santos resting on the sideline. Both are ready to return. But Dennis a little bit late in getting over to that midfield spot, so he will have to wait for the next whistle. Dos Santos back out on the field. He will replace Mike Morocco. Milford pushing this ball ahead to Mora Pereira. Now back for Lorenzo. Lorenzo Goes from sideline to sideline. Milford keeps it in. No, they don't. Toss in for the Warriors. As right now, this first stretch of the second half looking like how much of the first half played out, with Milford controlling the ball nearly the entire time. Warriors, for about the last 2 minutes of the first half, really came to life. On the move here, this ball delivered over towards the Milford bench out of play. It will stay with the Warriors. This ball on a line finds Lorenzo. Headed back into the attacking side by Foxborough's Nate Coates. Now delivered in deep, but only person home is Robbie Capelli. And 10 minutes have elapsed in the second half action. No goals in the second half as of yet. Score remains 1-0 in favor of the Hawks. Playing out of the corner, trying to get free. Sequeira, his pass broken up. And now right on the goal mouth, and that one is in. That developed in a hurry. And I do believe that was Marcelo Alves de Souza with the score. So the senior de Souza here at the 29:03 mark, adding to the Milford lead. It is now 2-0. So Marcelo Alves doubles the Milford lead. Milford now looking for more. With a pause in the action here. Rodrigo Lorenzo briefly down in a squat, now back onto his feet. Free kick here for the Hawks. Perhaps not. That looked to be initially the way that things were lining up, but instead Foxborough controlling, delivering back to their keeper, and now play out towards the middle of the field is picked up by the Hawks. Goal roughly 7 minutes into the first half, and now a goal about 11 minutes into the second half to give Milford now a 2-0 advantage. Kevin Barbosa trying to sneak inside deep. Now Dennis, no look pass And back into Nate, but can't control. But now it's Lorenzo. Dennis out of the corner, his first pass attempt blocked. Now this ball rolling back up the near sideline. Good speed for Andre Mora. Dos Santos delivers one in deep. Foxborough now able to move it up ahead. But no problem for Capelli. Inching our way towards 25 minutes to play in the second half. Milford on top of Foxborough now 2-0. Now players down on both sides. Foxborough's John Hollis back on his feet. Lorenzo a little slower to get back up, checking his face. Everyone going to stay out there. And now conversation between the official and Coach Pinto, with Athletic Director Peter Boucher also there observing the action. Didn't appear that any cards were issued. Toss in here by the Warriors. It's quickly countered here for Milford, and now some heavy physical play over the middle. Ryan Flaherty, one of the captains for Foxborough, along with Andre Mora, getting tangled up heavily around the center circle. A free kick awarded to the Warriors. Milford playing on the edge here in the second half, at times trying to do a little too much. You can expect that sometimes with a younger team trying to really find their footing. Some players trying to do a little too much out there, getting a little overzealous, and we've seen that perhaps in this last sequence for Milford. They do continue to lead by a 2-0 margin. And now some running room here for Mora as he takes this all alone up the near sideline, waiting for reinforcements and trying to move a centering pass in, but deflected away for Foxborough. So the Warriors with a good job answering there. Milford with it at the edge of the box, really losing control of that one late. Cotter sprawls out to make a stop. Once again, we have a Milford player down on the turf. We'll get checked on by the training staff. So we mentioned we had an update regarding our channels for you. Aside from the technical issues that we've been dealing with this week, we also received word from Comcast just days ago that there's been a bit of a shakeup in the channel listings for Comcast subscribers in the Milford area, and it does impact our Milford TV channels. Since our inception, our educational channel for Comcast subscribers has always been channel 11. However, effective now, there has been a change. You can now find the Milford TV educational channel on channel 6 on the Comcast dial. Our public channel remains channel 8, but you can now find our educational channel on Comcast channel 6. We'll make sure we get that out in more detail out on our social media and on our website in the days ahead here. From what has been communicated to us, our channels have fully remained the same for Verizon subscribers. So public channel remains channel 38 with our educational channel on channel 40 and our Verizon HD channel as well at 2140. Milford streaking up the middle, and a whistle. This one going against the Warriors. Jake Anello drawing the whistle for Foxborough, and a free kick here for Milford, and an intriguing spot on the field as we quickly approach 20 minutes to play in this game. Milford looking to add on to a 2-0 lead. Dennis to take the free kick. And sends it low and right into a crowd. Dennis there to play the ricochet. Trying to get around a defender. This ball is going to deflect back up to the edge of the box. Milford protects. Trying to feed Mora now. He has to track it down. Centering pass here. Defense closes in for Foxborough. The ball drifting out towards the near corner, and another whistle. Fans screaming for a card to be issued. We haven't seen one as of yet. And we won't see a card. Instead, another free kick. And a miss hit in the end for Messias Sequeira, and Milford can't cash in on the opportunity. Still a 2-0 score, 19:36 on the second half game clock. So folks planning to head out to the Milford football team week 1 matchup on the road against Bridgewater Raynham tomorrow. We hadn't quite locked in on the start time of that game, as unfortunately we can't travel out to Bridgewater Raynham for coverage, but the start time for that game is 7 p.m. I'm not sure if that was perhaps originally scheduled for a 6 p.m. game, but that is going to be a 7 p.m. start at Bridgewater Raynham tomorrow for the football team. So a much anticipated week 1 matchup for Milford. Seeing how the new look Hawks can compete in this relentless Hockomock League. The Milford girls soccer team, meanwhile, engaged in an evening battle on the road at Foxborough. So certainly wish the girls team well as they get their season started. So back in action after the timeout. Just over 19 minutes remaining. So checking in on the social media feed for our friends over at Foxboro Cable Access, the halftime score for the girls varsity matchup was a 2-0 lead for the Foxboro girls over Milford. So an inverse for the score over there. That was about a half an hour ago, so no doubt that game is in the midst of the second half, as is this one. 18:29 on the second half clock. pushes towards the near sideline. Or they're waiting. And now driven the other way by the Warriors. The defense steps in. Nice play again by Dos Santos. Over towards the near sideline now. Played ahead by Ryan Brown for Foxborough, but knocked away by Kevin Barboza. Mora now feeds Dennis, who sends it towards the far sideline and out of the reach of Rivero. Knocked back across the middle. Good positioning for Barboza. Got a little shove from behind there. Ball ends up out of play. It was Chase McGarry for Foxborough who gave that bit of a shove to Barboza. A little chippy at times between these two teams tonight. Tossing for the Warriors. This ball gathered in. Not quite by Brian Ribeiro. Lorenzo now back into the action. Rodrigo drives it onto the attacking side, looking for Andre Mora. And now it's Mora for Lorenzo. Play on sides. And driven across the face of the goal, but no one there to make a play for Milford. 2-goal lead for the Hawks, a little over 16 minutes left to play. Milford in search of their first win of the year and a chance to get themselves right back to the 500 mark 2 games deep into the season. Played back to the defense. Dos Santos will flick this over to the keeper. We're trying to break it out. Mora up ahead. Lorenzo using his speed, but not quite quick enough as that ball is pelted out of play by Jake Anello. That went clear up several rows into the bleachers. Some words exchanged by one of the officials and the 2 head coaches on the sideline for Foxborough. Milford's JV coach Tiago Carvalho tossing that ball back towards the field of play. Coaching multiple sports now, both sports that he was a standout player during his Milford High School varsity career. Carvalho, a coach on the staff for this boys soccer program, coaching the JV team. Tiago also coaching during the boys volleyball season last year. I believe he was either the freshman or JV head coach for the varsity squad, but getting heavily involved here in the athletics. Tiago was such an outstanding player to cover, a terrific kid, now turned coach. Great athlete, great personality, really gave it his all, led by example. It's not a surprise to see him come back as a coach, given the leadership skills he consistently displayed as a student athlete. Anthony Salvador also coaching now. He is coach of the freshman team, who we also saw as a player. Again, starting to show my age here as I quickly approach my 10th season of covering Scarlet Hawks athletics with Milford TV. And more of the players that I saw in my earlier years have come back to serve as coaches. little over 13 minutes remaining now. Milford continuing to just suffocate this Foxborough team. They have had very little in the way of offensive chances in the second half. We'll move this ball ahead into the attacking side ever so briefly. Now able to regroup. This ball rolls free, but the defense is there. Sends it right back through midfield, and it is Ryan Cotter who comes up from net to play it forward. There's Lorenzo battling with Cam Lucas Pelletier. Still a lot of physicality out there as we get into the late stages. Foxborough, a nice move. Dennis there in support. Barbosa able to deflect that ball. It's going to go across the goal line and lead to a corner kick opportunity on the near side for the Warriors. It's again John Hollis taking the kick, and a quick deflection that goes out of play. And that might have been a bit of a surprise deflection based on the grimacing after the fact for Cam Lucas Pelletier. As now Lorenzo moves the ball ahead with 4 defenders draped in close proximity. Now gives way to Mora. Those two go back and forth. A little bit of clutching and grabbing, and the ball goes out of play. Brought back in by Lorenzo. Has it back on his foot and now pushes to the captain. Back now to Lorenzo. Sends this one in the air, and Marcelo Alves could not make the play, and that was, there's 2 players involved in that play, or your 2 goal scorers in the game. Lorenzo scoring Milford's first goal early on in the first half, and Marcelo Alves de Souza with the 1 strike so far in the second half, which now has less than 10 minutes remaining. Or a little bit quicker on the draw there. Lorenzo, room up ahead, now comes to a dead stop. Lorenzo looking for some reinforcements. And instead shoots this one all the way back towards midfield, and now it is Dennis across the middle. He'll push to the far wing. And now back across for Barbosa. Now Lorenzo, a little chip that is easily knocked away by Foxborough. Lorenzo settles it down. Pushes it back on to the middle of the field. Dennis keeps it on the ground. Now back to Mora, and a little bit of a defensive shell here for the Scarlet Hawks as they continue to bleed time off of the second half clock. Foxborough player down. That's Hollis. Hobbles his way to the sideline, looks to be heavily favoring the left leg. Play resumes here. As this ball is brought ahead by the Milford defense, Barboza back to Lorenzo. Lorenzo popping this ball up in the air. Some nifty moves there for the junior, and again, he drops down into a squat. As conversation continues with the official, Kevin Barboza a little bit heated as he vacates the area. In the end, a kick here for Lorenzo with 7.5 minutes to go. And a leaping grab by Cotter. And a sky-high kick. It's knocked back towards the Milford attacking side by Foxborough, and now here is Lorenzo. Cuts back. Gets the ball back on his foot. He'll release a shot that is over the crossbar. But a good situation to take the shot there. Another goal kick for Cotter. 6:42 on the game clock. Milford getting closer and closer to that first victory of the year. This is a team still with a lot of belief that they will be at the top of the Kelly Rex Division standings, as they have been for the last 4 years running. Out of play on the far sideline. The clock still running. Milford with the toss-in coming up. Here's Barboza now. Clears the defender and now pushes back towards center. With some good elusive moves here. This time, Isaiah Sequeira. Back on to Lorenzo. Lorenzo slices through a double team. Now clears himself again for a good shot on net, but it's deflected away by Cotter. Lorenzo so creative there, cutting back and forth. Losing defenders along the way, created a little bit of space. Excellent shot on goal, and it took a sprawling reach for Cotter to keep that ball out of the net. Now this ball sent on goal wide to the far side and out of play. Substitutions come in for Foxborough ahead of the goal kick. The second half, the clock paused at the 5-minute mark, so from here on, we wait for the final whistle down below. Milford with Jarrett Brown on the sideline, waiting to check in at the next opportunity. Back to Kevin Barboza. Moved on to Mora. Mora passes it back towards Barboza, and it's knocked out of play by the Warriors. So the next opponent on the docket for Milford is Attleboro. Foxborough, meanwhile, will stay on the road here for the early days of the season in the midst of 3 straight road games to begin their campaign. They'll be at Milton coming up on Monday, and then they'll be at Mansfield on Wednesday before they finally play their first home game on September 15th against Franklin. And then they'll go back out on the road for 2 more, so just 1 home game through this early stretch, and only 2 home games in total in the month of September for Foxborough. Brutal stretch to open the season. Maybe about 3 minutes or so to go in this one. Lorenzo pushes forward along the far sideline for Milford. Foxborough trying to protect in that corner. Barboza now, a little bit of space, gives the ball away. Foxborough just does keep it in. They send it back towards center, but dumped back ahead by the Scarlet Hawks. Moved back into Lorenzo, who now has Mora. Can Mora catch up to this one? Had almost no angle to the net and then went careening into the protective netting at the edge of the field of play. Back into the action. Morris seems to be fine, but always a flair for the dramatic from these players out there on the field for Milford. Here's Lorenzo guiding this ball towards his defense. Miguel de Oliveira looking for a chance, checking into the game here in the later stages. Lorenzo trying to make a move around Foxborough's Charlie LaValle. Another whistle here, this time going against the Warriors. Deep kick here. The Foxborough defense gets there first, and then Cotter settles down the action. And overall, it's been a strong game for Cotter. He's faced a lot of chances generated by this Milford offense. Has only allowed the single goal in each half, with just a couple of moments remaining in this second half action. Foxborough now making a bid here up the far sideline, but it's cleared out. Foxborough will have a chance to toss it back in front of their own bench. Rolling free in the direction of Mateus Sequeira. And now Lorenzo feeds to the middle, past the reach of John Castro, and now over towards the far sideline. Now on the ground, bodies flying. Cotter dives in to hold on to the ball, and everyone gets back to their feet. No whistles or stoppages of play as Foxborough takes it up across the center line. A lot of play staying with the Warriors. And there is your final whistle. So that's going to bring an end to the action here tonight. So Milford, a solid effort from start to finish, really dominated the pace of play here. Just squeezing the life out of the Warriors tonight. Couldn't get anything going on their offensive side. And for Milford, it was a goal in the first half by Rodrigo Lorenzo, a goal in the second half by Marcelo Alves. And that all totals up to a solid 2-0 victory for the Scarlet Hawks here tonight. And so Milford does indeed get themselves right back to the 500 mark. They improve now to 1-1 overall on the season. Foxborough loses their season debut. They are now 0-1. Again, this boys soccer team next in action at home next week against Attleboro. Our next coverage here for Milford High School athletics will come your way on Monday, as we will have our first coverage of the Scarlet Hawks girls soccer team in action against the Hopedale Blue Raiders. That game expected to get underway around 6 p.m. And so that is when we'll have you live with our coverage next. Again, you can catch all of our games streaming live and on demand here on our YouTube page at youtube.com/MyMilfordTV. A big thank you to Patrick Garapi for helping out on the coverage tonight. And I am Tim Coet. That final score, one final time, Milford defeats Foxborough by a final score of 2-0. This has been a presentation of Milford High School Athletics here on Milford TV. So long, everybody.